So you might be surprised to hear that there is a right way and a wrong way to batch your work. Batching can be a great way to free up some of your time and your energy, but only if you do it in the right way. If you got way too much on your plate and you want to learn how to correctly use batching to go from overwhelmed to on top of things, then you're in the right place. By the end of this podcast, you're going to know when not to batch, how to use batching to save time at work, and how to use batching to save time in your personal life. And this episode is brought to you by Mod Ambition. My brand new luxury goal planner is launching soon, and I don't want you to miss out. With a modern aesthetic and psychologist created content, this planner is designed to help ambitious women like you have it all without the overwhelm. I want you to go to signup.modambition.com to take a look at the planner and reserve your invite. Okay, so we all know the feeling of having that never-ending to-do list and feeling desperate for any hack, any system, any tip that's going to make our lives more manageable. Let's face it, having more time while getting things done seems like a dream come true, really. There was an article in The Atlantic by Joe Pinsker that referenced a 2019 research paper about how much free time happy people have, and it said this. The paper, which analyzed data covering about 35,000 Americans, found that employed people's ratings of their satisfaction with life peaked when they had in the neighborhood of 2.5 hours of free time a day. And me as a working mama, I know that my plate is full so many days, and so time optimization to help me get that 3 hours of free time to myself is much appreciated. And this is why batching is an important piece of my life. So first, let's talk about what I mean when I say batching. Batching is a systematic approach to working that essentially means batching together like tasks and doing them all at once. In the content creation space, it's become very popular. It's a very spoken about concept because many have preached the benefits really of creating many pieces of content like blogs, videos, or podcasts like this one all at once. But it can really apply to any area of your work and even your personal life too. If you're a service provider, for instance, like a therapist, you might batch all your clients on one day and do other admin and marketing tasks on other days. It could look like that. Or you might batch all your emails in your work to 2 time periods throughout the day, like morning and lunch. Batching saves us time by the notion of momentum, really. It takes more time and energy to start and end something and to restart a task than it does to keep that task going. So the idea is once you have moved past the inertia of starting, you use that momentum to complete other tasks and thereby save yourself the extra time and energy that it would take to do each task one by one and to start each one by one. So first I want to talk to you guys about when not to batch, okay? It takes extra energy exertion, it takes extra time, it takes prolonged focus that may not be available for you to batch. If your quality is diminishing due to the energy needed to batch, then you might not need to batch. So there are distinct periods where batching is a really great idea, and then there's distinct periods that you may not want to batch. For instance, if you could probably hear in my voice, I'm a little bit sick right now. I've been sick, babies have been sick, and I haven't had I haven't made the time, and I have not had the energy to batch create content, and it's been easier for me to give high quality content and not feel rushed or even just have the capacity to sit down in the space that I'm in right now with us missing so many days from work due to the kids being sick. So this is a good example of like while I normally batch things like podcasts and videos, I deliberately don't when I know that I don't have the energy or I don't have the space to make the time to do that. And I know that those things will be better served by me doing it on a weekly basis and giving myself grace. Another time not to batch is if you know that the quality of what you're doing is going to diminish by that extra energy exertion that it takes to batch something. So for instance, if you write reports and you know if you batch your reports to like a sitting down period, that third report is not going to be good as that first one because you just added energy to even care at that point. Batching may not be a good idea for those as well, or you could be more realistic with what you can do. I find that with my energy for YouTube videos, I used to try to do 6, and those last couple that I would film one for my YouTube channel were not as high energetic because I was tired. So I've been more realistic with knowing that I can do 4 videos at a time versus 6. Another time that you may not want to batch work or anything in your personal life is when you're batching something that needs to be eliminated or delegated. So listen to those previous episodes that we've had on delegating and automation to know if what you're deciding to batch is actually something you can get rid of first and not do, either take off your plate, or you can delegate before you get into creating a system of doing something that shouldn't be on your plate in the first place. Another idea to think about some things that you may not want to batch, or when batching is not a good idea, is if you don't have a proven system that's efficient for the work that you're doing, you may not be at the step that you're ready to batch those things yet. I remember there's this great example in this book that I read called The Lean Startup Method. And in that book, they give this example of batching stuffing envelopes. So they have an assembly line of people stuffing envelopes, and instead of doing it one by one, they're doing multiple. And what they didn't realize in that batching experience was there was a mistake on one of the letters, and then so you end up with this system of batching something that's incorrect. Whereas if you had done one, check that work first, made sure it was diligent and up to your expectations before you start batching, you'll have a better idea of what's worth it to batch or not, instead of batching the wrong thing. That's a long example to say, make sure that the system that you have in place for the things that you want to batch is the most efficient, it's the most time saving, it's the most high quality, and then formulate a way to come up with a way to put those tasks into some sort of batching system. So now I want to talk about how to use batching to save time in your workflow. The first thing you're going to do is plan. You're going to identify what are your time-sucking tasks that you're always behind on, and you can do this by doing a time audit of your time. So a time audit is basically looking at everything you're doing in the day. That way you can see, where are you wasting time, where are you excelling at your time, and what are some of the tasks that are harder to get done in the time that you expect them. So really taking a look at what it is that you're doing every day. And a great built-in way to do this is by incorporating a paper planner into your workflow. So within the Mod Ambition planner that's going to be launching May 30th, and I want you guys to get very excited as I am, there is a built-in way to track and optimize your time, which is why I think it's one of the things that makes me so confident that this goal planner will help ambitious women 100%, is because it's infused with things like that help you have it all without doing it all. Our time is something that you cannot replace. And if we use simple tools like my beautiful planner I have for you guys to help us get more time back and get more done, then why not? If you don't want to miss out on the launch of this planner, which I hope you don't, you can take a look at the planner and sign up for it at signup.modambition.com. That's signup.modambition.com. Another piece of planning that comes into place. So if you don't know why I'm starting with planning, the 3 Mod Ambition planner pillars are plan, prepare, and execute. And I like to use those pillars that have different tenets within them to approach any type of problem or task, right? So if we first are planning the work that we're going to batch, we'll also want to make sure that we're realistic about what task we can batch, which we always talked about. We also talked about a little bit earlier. The next pillar part of that, if you are trying to think about how you're going to batch your work stuff, is to prepare. So you're going to use things like templates, checklists, standard operating procedures to eliminate the friction when you sit down to actually do the batch work. You're going to do stuff that your future self is going to thank you for, so that way when you do sit down to batch, you're all prepared and ready to just go hit the ground running. So you can do these types of templates and processes written down in your email signatures. You can film processes for you or your counterparts using screen recordings of like your workflow or instructions, or you can film an instructional video. There's more tips on how to scale in a way by using systems like that, like processes, templates, in the book called The Pumpkin Plan by Mike Kalowitz. That's also really helpful. But the idea is just to be prepared as much as you can by things you've done beforehand. That's going to make doing the batch work actually easier. And then there's the third pillar, which is execute, actually do the batch working, sit down and get it done. And there's a couple different ways I want to talk about how you can execute your batch work. So you've planned it out, you've decided what's most important, you've been realistic about what you think you can batch, you have prepared ahead of time with things like templates, processes, standard operating procedures. It's all kind of laid out. Then you get to the actual day that to do the batch work. One of the things I suggest is batch days with flexibility. So knowing that there's always going to be some creeping in of the other work, or attempts to creep in of the other work you need to do outside of what you have batch scheduled for that day. So you're going to have to be a little bit flexible because there might be some one-off tasks. But I really like to use batch days in my workflow. So each day is dedicated to a different thing that I want to get done, and I work on those things on that day. And that's also kind of broken up into segments of my day. So the work that I do before the kids get up in the morning is dedicated to a certain thing, specifically Mod Ambition. And then when my actual work days are dedicated to different things for my full-time job as well as for Mod Ambition. Another great idea are this concept called workcations. And you can use workcations, which are just vacations where you're not actually on vacation, but you just get away so you can focus on the work that you need to get done and just batch it all in one setting. These are great for big projects like writing a book. Maya Angelou said this about workcations, or what I call workcations. She said, I do still keep a hotel room in my hometown and pay for it by the month. I go around 6:30 in the morning. I have a bedroom with a bed, a table, and a bath. I have a thesaurus, a dictionary, and the Bible, and have all the paintings and any decoration taken out of the room. I ask the management and the housekeeping not to enter the room just in case I've thrown a piece of paper on the floor. I don't want it discarded. About every 2 months, I get a note slipped under the door. Dear Miss Angelou, please let us change the linen. We think it may be moldy, ! But I've never slept there. I'm usually out of there by 2, and then I go home and read what I've written that morning and try to edit it then. Clean it up, and that's how I write my books. I love that quote from Maya Angelou because it really kind of describes her process of what I would call a workcation, or just that getting away to get a big project done, and how batching can really help you get in the zone just by doing everything all at once rather than like trying to write a book in your everyday life. So if you have big projects like that, that could be helpful for you as well. Another thing you want to keep in mind when you are actually in the mode of getting into a flow with your batching, you're doing it week after week, you want to take some time to sit down and review how things are going and adjust. Like I said, I was batching some YouTube videos at a large frame, 6 videos, and then I realized that it wasn't really working in those last 2 videos, and I found that out by stopping, pausing, and reviewing what I'm doing, so they're just not on autopilot. You're making sure what you're putting out matches the values that you have. Another really important thing when you're executing is making it easy to do. Like I said, if you're prepared, it's going to make things easier to do. If things are already out for you when you need to do them, that's going to make it easy to do and make it pleasurable. Make those days that you have to batch some really hard task at work really pleasurable by having your hot tea, your aromatherapy. Just get into a flow with the batching. That way it's something that you enjoy and you don't resent those days that are coming that you have to batch things. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about how to use batching for your personal life and how to save time at home using batching. So again, we're going to apply those 3 pillars of the Mod Ambition: plan, prepare, and execute as well when it comes to batching in our personal lives or at home. First, let's talk about plan. You're going to decide when you're going to batch which chores or home domestic tasks. You're going to decide, for us, okay, our morning and evening routine, that's something we have already decided that I'm going to take time, me and my husband usually, in our given spaces in the morning and the evening to just straighten it up a little bit and keep things going. And we batch all the cleaning for those 2 times, and we don't really let it, worry about cleaning or straighten things up in between those times, so we can have those in between times for go time for working, right? So just kind of decide when it is that you want to batch things around your house, especially things like chores, and you want to consider batching like tasks. when you're thinking about how can you use batching in your home life. So think about repetitive chores that you have to do all the time, like laundry and unloading the dishwasher. How can you combine all these things? How can you combine all these things so that you're not doing them every day, unless you enjoy doing them every day, or that it can save you time so you don't have to worry about doing them on one-offs. You can kind of do them all together. And I want you guys to think outside of the box besides just batching cleaning tasks when it comes to batching in your personal life. You can also batch things like running all your errands at one time when you have to go out during the week versus going each day to run an errand. Just create an errands list. And then when it is time, like let's say before you have to go pick up your kids from school, you're going to take an extra hour before that to run all your errands because you're going to have to be out anyway and get all that stuff done. So be creative. It's not just reserved for cleaning tasks. Okay, and then the prepare pillar, as it applies to batching in your personal life, is have things ready to go for when it's time to batch any of your chores or your errands or your things you want to check in with on socially. Just make sure that if you're going to batch something when it's time to do it, you have what you need to do it, very similar to the work one. So for instance, I like to batch our laundry on the weekends. I run the clothes on Saturday, I fold them on Sunday because I don't want to deal with doing a load each day because I've tried that before. It doesn't work for us. And I'm always concerned about the energy, right? The water, but that's neither here nor there. So what I do to prepare for those batch days so that it's not so strenuous is on me is on Friday we bring down all the clothes because our washer and dryer is in the basement, so we gather the clothes from the kids' rooms, from our rooms. We also have a laundry basket in the front in the bathroom next to our living room for the dirty clothes that end up on the first floor. And then that way on Saturday I have everything I need. I don't have to worry about running around the house, gathering the laundry, and it's just all there. Sorry guys, I have a pretty bad cough this week. Hopefully I'll be feeling better for you guys next week. And then finally, when it comes to executing batching in your personal life, you want to find a way that you can make that time enjoyable, kind of like what I said in your workflow. And that way it's going to help you be more consistent with the batching schedule that you're creating for yourself. So for instance, the laundry. And one thing that's going to help with that is to organize your batching into small batching tasks as you go. It's going to make it less like a bigger daunting thing. So for instance, when I unload my dishwasher, I batch everything on my counters in their different categories before putting them up. That way I can just stand in one place, kind of put them vaguely where they go on top of the counter. And then when everything is out of the dishwasher, I just walk around the kitchen once and put everything where it goes. Just makes things much smoother than walking all over the kitchen all the time, like going to different areas all the time. Just do it all at once. So I'm batching, it's like very meta. I'm batching my dishwashing by doing it in my morning and evening routines only. And then within my batching of my dishwashing, I am also doing smaller batches to make things easier for myself. I think I always like to give credit where credit is due. I think I got that from Emily Lay or Kendra Adachi, not sure. But I also do the same thing when I'm cleaning my counters. For instance, I go through and get all the crumbs first, whether that's with a vacuum or wiping off the crumbs first, and then I go through with my spray or my wet wipe to clean all the counters. So I'm not doing that back and forth on each counter. I do that for all in each one step, and then I go through and do another batch of the actual wiping down. So it's really about how can you make the flow of actually executing the batching even easier for yourself, which I'm all about, and all saving time in the process as well. So guys, those are my quick and dirty tips on batching, when not to batch, how to do it at work, how to do it at home. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. And I would love to end this episode by offering an intention for you this week. May you remember to accept the time you're in while mastering the time you have. Namaste. But you're giving it to me.